Thank you very much. My name is Vince Perico. I was a baseball coach here for 14 years, and it's an honor and a privilege to be up here tonight to introduce Brian Edwards and being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Brian called me up and he says, "Coach, I'm getting inducted into the Hall of Fame," and I'm so happy for him. And he says, "Yeah, it's February 14th. I said, "Brian, that's Valentine's Day." And he says, "Well, tell Mrs. P that I'm sorry." And I said, "That's okay, Brian. I don't have to work out dinner arrangements." But my wife, she's been around the game for so long, she still has a sign up that says, "We interrupt this marriage due to the baseball season." But it is an honor to come back here. I've seen a lot of good friends, coaches, administrators that I've seen, athletes, and it's a special honor. And especially here with introduce a great player of Metro State in the history of the baseball, but more so about the character of this individual on and off the field, how he represented this institution and continues to represent this institution by coming to all the alumni games and staying in support of Metro State. I still remember, and I'm here with my assistant Tim Carlson as well, recruiting Brian Edwards. And he was just this big, tall, lanky catcher. And you don't see very many lanky catchers. But he was a five-tool guy, and we worked really hard trying to get him here right out of Dakota Ridge. He decided to go to junior college down in Seward County Community College. And fortunately, during the springtime of that next year, get a phone call from Brian. And things weren't working out down there. They redshirted. They started messing around with his arm. And when he told us that he was coming back to Metro, we were excited. This was going to be a player for the future. And he came in that fall, and he still had some arm trouble. He had a cannon from a distance, but he just had a tough time throwing at a short distance, mainly to the pitcher. So we continued to work and develop, and we sit down with Coach Carlson, and he's such an athlete. He could run, throw, hit, power. He had all the tools. And so we decided, we went up to Brian and says, "Hey, Brian, I think it's time to move in the outfield." And he had a big old smile on his face. And I think it's because he got tired of getting beat up behind the plate and catching bullpens. But that's where he really went on and excelled. And in the 3 years that he was with us, he put up phenomenal numbers. And I'm not going to go through all the numbers that's in the program, but in 10 categories, he's in the top 10 in the history of Metro State baseball. And that's quite an accomplishment for just 3 years that he played at the school. In those 3 years that he played with, he led our team in 2 years in all the stats, and the 1 year he was second in the stats for hitting. Brian fortunately got an opportunity to go on and sign with the San Diego Padres, so he didn't finish out his 4th year. Obviously, we were disappointed, but we were really excited for him to move on to the next level because not too many baseball players get that opportunity. And Brian went on, played with the Padres for 1 year, and the next year he went down and they ended up releasing him. But he did come back. He finished school here at Metro State and is now moving on and with his life. Besides some of the personal accomplishments on the field, what set Brian apart from so many other athletes was his character, his work ethic, his competitiveness, the respect for the game, his personality with the humility and the humor that he always brought to the field, the commitment that he had towards his teammates in the school, and he was probably one of the greatest teammates of that class and a huge leader. But most of all, Brian, he had a great perspective on life and the game. And what I mean by that, I'm going to tell you a little story. It was 2002, and we're at the RMAC tournament. Nobody really thought we were going to do anything, so we went out and beat Southern Colorado. They were number one. I think we then went off and beat Mesa State. So we're in the championship. And Fort Hays came through the losers bracket, and they had to beat us twice. Well, we were a little nervous going into that championship game. And during that game, towards the end of the game, there was a fly ball to Brian, and Brian's never missed anything. All of a sudden, hit the heel of the glove, and it dropped. Well, it didn't cost us the game, but we lost that first game. The next game, they had to come back and beat us again. And we were out there in defense the very first inning. Fly ball to Brian. He catches the ball. And he starts running into the dugout. And he goes, guys, we're going to win this because I made the catch. But he just had that lightheartedness, kept everything in perspective, and he really was a true leader the 3 years that he was there for our team. Brian will be successful wherever he goes, whatever he does, because he possesses those special qualities that I think he learned not only from his parents, which congratulate them as well, but a lot of the qualities and the relationships, the bonding that they had here at Metro State University. I would like to congratulate his parents as well, and congratulate his fiancée, who they're going to get married this summer. So congratulate to you too. And right now I'm really proud and honored to have coached Brian, but more so proud to introduce him as the 2014 Metro State Hall of Fame. Brian Edwards.
Don't let him fool you. I dropped a lot of fly balls. I didn't get here for my defense. Nicole should have typed all this up. I definitely did not come prepared, but I did text myself some notes. So give me 1 second to open that up. So I was actually trying to convince myself that I wasn't going to have to give a speech tonight for whatever reason that was. And I tried to tell my fiance there was no chance I was going to have to talk. I never heard anything about it. I kind of figured it was like graduation, where somebody reads your name, you walk across the stage, shake a hand, and call it a night, which John emailed me yesterday and said, yeah, no, you're going to have to give a speech, and it's not just a 30-second hi, thank you, and move on. You got to actually stand up there and talk. So I actually started thinking back to my graduation from Metro, and I remember telling my parents at one point that there was I had no interest in participating in the ceremony. I wasn't interested in walking across the stage. I'd done it in high school. To be honest, it's boring. You sit there and listen to people talk. You don't want to hear talk. I had no interest in doing it. And I told my mom that, and she said, you know what, son, it's whatever you want to do. It's your day. If you don't want to walk across the stage, you don't have to. We'll have a party at the house, and you can kind of do whatever you want. I told my dad that, and he said, you better damn well believe you're walking across the stage for graduation. And I said, Dad, I really, I've done this before. Well, I don't know about you, but I wasn't completely surprised that I graduated. And he gave me advice, which for whatever reason still sticks with me today. And that advice was that there are certain days that are not about you. Your wedding, your funeral, for example, your graduation. Honestly, you literally just show up, shut up, and kind of just let everyone else have a good time. And so when I was trying to think of how I was going to get out of this speech and how I was going to avoid kind of standing up here and making a fool of myself, this came back to me, and I started thinking that tonight is not really about me. It's not really about my accomplishment. It's really due to all of the work and effort that everybody else put into me. I wasn't necessarily born with the most talent in the world. I was always the slowest, most awkward person on every team I played on. Especially leading into high school. I was a decent hitter, but Little League, I hit 5th or 6th in the lineup, and That was usually because somebody was sick or on vacation that I even got that high. And I always had a pretty good arm, but to Vince's point, even in Little League, as hard as I could throw it, I had no idea where the hell it was going. And so I didn't get here because of my effort. I also have a bit of a dilemma, which Tim, my former coach and now boss, can attest to, that I'm a bit lazy sometimes. So I couldn't have got here on my own. I needed everybody else to support me along the way. I needed my dad to take me in the basement every night of high school and hit off the tee with me, talk through my mechanics, talk through my swing, teach me to be a better player. Even the nights when I said, Dad, I'm pretty tired. I'm burnt out. We've done this now for 4 years. We got to figure it out. He would in his way say, you know what, son? They were never overbearing, but he'd say, you know what, son? Why don't you come back and talk to me when you're ready to get back to work? So sure enough, the next night I thought I was off for a couple of weeks. I thought I had a break. I could watch some TV, maybe go out with some friends. Next night we'd get done with dinner and he'd come up, hey, you want to go in the basement and hit? Which I appreciate. It was never overbearing. My parents were never the type to force me into doing anything. If I ever wanted to just stop playing baseball, they were all for that. They could have cared less, at least in my eyes. But as long as I was going to be doing it, they had fun with it. I had fun with it, and so it was a special time. And that extends to my mom. My mom's the most competitive person you'll ever meet, and she'll tell you, if you try and argue with her about it, she'll let you know in the first 5 minutes that she is right. She is the most competitive person. And my brother was always there, never let me win at anything growing up. Even when I thought I was cool because I moved up a couple of years and filled in on his team, he made sure to let me know that I was not good. So, even to this day, we play softball every now and again, and he chose not to play baseball after Little League, and not in high school anyway, and he still lets me know that he's far better defensively than I ever was. I can still out-hit you, though. My teammates, honestly, some of the best friends I've ever made, still fantastic friends with them all to this day. 4 of them are in our wedding coming up in June, so it was honestly, Metro State was the best thing to ever happen to me. Tim Carlson, other than my fiance, of course. Tim Carlson, he's the hardest working coach I've really ever been around. I don't know why Tim and Vince put up with me all that time. I was a pain in the ass. I'm sure that I still am. Lindsay now gets to deal with that, so you guys are off the hook. But one time it was my first year at Metro, and Tim approached me in the hallway, pushed me aside, and said, and I was there maybe a month or so, and he pushed me aside. I hadn't played a day on the field yet, and he said, you know what, if you're able to be drafted out of Metro State if you actually just put in a little bit of extra work from time to time. I mean, we have these optional practices. It would be nice if you showed up from time to time to those practices. And again, I was there a month. I just met the guy. I talked to Coach Perico out of high school a number of times. And having just met Tim, I looked him right in the eye and said, Coach, I don't care about that. I'm here to have a good time. And never once did Tim ever back down in our film sessions, our exhausting conversations on how useless drag bunting is. He never relented. He never slowed down on making sure that I was in the cages. And honestly, he put in the extra work for me for the laziness that I might have portrayed back in college. And then to Vince, he says that I called him up and I basically came to him. It's very much the opposite of that. I was in a place where not too many people really believed that I was going to continue playing, other than my family and Coach Perico. I was pretty much out of options at that point, and Vince gave me options. And I can never thank you enough for that. I know my family is completely indebted to you for it. I could stand up here all night and talk about everybody. It was a fantastic time there. I thank you all for putting up with my shit, to be honest. The kids in the audience putting up with my shit. But anyway, and so on top of that, I thank you to my fiance for now taking that burden on. I'm sure my family and Tim and Vince are happy. Tim less so, because I now work with Tim and he has to deal with me on a daily basis, and we certainly hijack a number of our conference room meetings with the debate over bunting. 13, 14 years later. And also, I want to thank Lindsay's parents, my future in-laws, Todd and Susie, flew all the way out here from Missouri. I had told maybe one or two people about this, and at that point, it was mainly my family and Lindsay who knew, and they had already booked a flight to come out here. So I want to thank you both for coming out, showing your support. Honestly, from day one, you've made me feel like a part of your family. So I thank you all for that. I want thank you to Metro State for, I'm sure I'm going on. The music's probably playing, but I haven't looked at my notes yet, though. The phone's black. But thank you to Metro State. Anybody who had a part in my being here, I really, really appreciate it. I can't thank everybody enough, so thank you.